Today at CZ Custom, I would like to talk to you about the CZ75 variant model of the CZ line that uses the original style round locking lug system. We're going to talk about all the barrels that are in that original 75 line, and that is your CZ75 Tactical Sport. They all start with that CZ75, except for the Shadow 2, which is still a CZ75 variant. But here's our lineup of barrels right here. We have 3 factory barrels, one from a PCR, one from a PO1, one from a full-size SPO1 or SPO1 Shadow, and then we have 3 examples of barrels that we manufacture, which we'll get into those in just a minute. First, though, let's go back to the compact barrels. This compact barrel is out of a PCR, and you notice it doesn't have this extra little lug on the back. If you're familiar at all with the 75 line, all the barrels have this extra little extension out the back, except for the PCR. The PCR doesn't have that extension there because it uses the back of the casing for its loaded chamber indicator. The PCR D Compact is currently the only model that has the loaded chamber indicator, and they did that to the back of their barrel so that this casing could actually push up against. I'll show you how it works. See how this little extension pin is now sticking up, and you can feel it and you can see it. That way you know that there's a round in the chamber. Again, this is the only model that still has one of those. Get that out of there for you. Set that back down. Now, when CZ made this gun, we were like, well, what does this little thing do? We weren't sure at all. So we contacted the factory, and they told us that they weren't sure what it did. Reliability was one we got from one of their engineers, but the PCR is a perfectly reliable pistol. So not really sure what that was, because the question comes up lots of times over the years, what does this little thing do? We kind of ramped it up to do nothing. If you look at the inside of the slide, there's no marks where it touches. If you look on the sides of the slide, there's no marks where it touches. And in a second, I'll take apart the Shadow 2 and show you just how big the space is that little extension goes into. But we decided to go ahead and omit that from our barrels as we made them because it was unnecessary. And I'll show you that right now. So this is our Shadow 2 OR Custom that we customize here in-house. And if you take this slide off, pull the recoil spring assembly out, barrel out, set it there, and you look inside here, you can see the space. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but let me stick a pair of calipers in here and see if I can get the lock onto that. And you can see that open space in there where that little extension would go is about 316 thousandths of an inch. So slide back out to the side, take our Shadow 2 OR custom barrel and measure that, and we'll turn it this way again so you can read the numbers. It's about 195 thousandths of an inch. Now, that leaves us with 50 thousandths of an inch on each side of that, not touching the slide at all. Let's move my calipers to 50 thousandths of an inch so you guys can see what that is. That's just free space inside there with this little extension touching nothing. And if you look at this one, you can see that it doesn't touch anything. So we felt pretty comfortable about removing that from our barrels. We've now at this point installed hundreds of these barrels in different 75s. Every model 75, we put one of our barrels in at this point. And that has had no effect on the function of the firearm at all. Another thing I'd like to point out to you on the original 75 barrels is this little indentation right here. So the SPO1 barrel has it, compact barrel has it, and that's for ease of assembly. Now let me show you on the PCR custom what that's doing. You can see how it's allowing the guide rod, this is our stainless steel guide rod, comes on the PCR custom, and it keeps holding that in place with this little extension or little cone that kicks out the back of the guide rod, and then a corresponding one on the actual barrel. Now, again, this is for ease of assembly. Makes it where you can push it in there, and it stays really well, and you don't have to worry about it coming out. Now, this does not stay in this position when the firearm is functioning. We do have people that ask us that question, and it does not. Where that guide rod ends up resting is on these 2-3 little pads on each side here. I'm sure you can see them in the video. Hopefully you can. But those are where the guide rod ends up resting. If the guide rod stayed here, there'd be nothing to make it go and move like it's supposed to, because it's all one solid unit. This ends up having to rest on somewhere else, just behind the barrel lockup position. Over there. Well, knowing this feature also wasn't doing what we really wanted, we went ahead and omitted that from our barrels. And we've been making these barrels like this for about 6 or 7 years now, without that extra little thing. We put this little ramp on here to make it easier to get a full-length guide rod in and out. Now, the new Shadow 2, when it came out, also doesn't have that extra little feature there. So we're pretty comfortable at this point that it's okay to not have that little feature there. When you put the Shadow 2 back together, it still works the same way, where the guide rod sits where it is, but instead of having that little dimple, it just sits flat against the back of the barrel like that. So, all right, so there's some of the variances, the different kinds of barrels we see. There's also some of the barrels that we make, and happy shooting.